Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Friday, January the 7th. Now we got a 9-game Friday night slate. This is definitely going to be a crazy slate. This is going to be one of these days where there is a lot of value. There's also a lot of news that is pending, a lot of questionable guys right now. We're going to talk through each team, break down each team, kind of give my early thoughts, what I do like, taking a first look at this slate on Thursday night. But as always, guys, these are my first looks at the slate. With a sport like NBA, and especially for this slate specifically, there's a lot still pending. There's a lot still up in the air, a lot of question marks right now. I'm going to try and do my best to break it down, first look. But if you guys do want more of my updated content, I do provide that over on Patreon. You can check that out. Link down below in the description. After we get injury news, in the afternoon, after we get starting lineups, I do provide a lot more updated content, updated core plays. My positional plays I'll update up until lock, given my favorite plays at each position. My rankings, top 20 plays of the day, ranked in order of interest, I update, those up until lock as well. All that's available for Patreon. You can get in our Discord chat too, where I'm able to answer questions throughout the day, up until lock, even after lock. I'm in Discord, trying to answer as many questions for you guys as I can. And also give out some of my favorite picks on Prize Picks each day for Patreon members. So if you want to check out Prize Picks, they are the sponsor of this video. You can go check them out, sign up, use code NOAH when you do, and they will match your first deposit. Prize Picks will give you a free bet up to $100 when you sign up with my code. And you can take a look at their platform, see what they have to offer. They're a player prop based DFS site, so it's really simple. You're just going to pick the over or the under on players' projections. They already have some stuff posted for like NFL this week. They don't have any NBA projections posted yet at the time I'm making this video, but they'll get those up probably late Thursday night, early Friday morning. You'll start to see some NBA projections on the board. They'll have like points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers made. They'll have fantasy point projections too. And again, you just pick the over or the under. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks. You can win up to 10 extra money on Prize Picks. So go sign up over there if you have not yet, and use code NOAH. When you do so, you get that deposit bonus. And if you want some of my favorite picks each day on Prize Picks, along with the entries that I'm playing myself, I give those out on Patreon. That's linked down below in the description, something you can check out as well if you're interested. But let's take a look at this Friday night slate. This is definitely, again, a crazy slate. We're going to have a lot of value today, a lot of shorthanded teams. And we'll start off in the first game with the Spurs and the Sixers. So the Spurs are one of these teams that's going to be a little shorthanded today. No Derek White, no Keldon Johnson, no Devin Vassell. Lonnie Walker is questionable, and Doug McDermott's out too. Thad Young is out. So the big ones here are they're going to be missing 3 starters basically. Derek White, Keldon Johnson, and then Devin Vassell has been starting lately in place of Doug McDermott. Doug McDermott's normally a starter. He's also out too. So we'll start off with Dejounte Murray. 9,600 for Dejounte Murray here. I think he looks pretty appealing on the slate. The matchup on the road against Philly is probably not the best, but I think Dejounte Murray is going to play big minutes if it's a close game. His first game back from protocols, they said they were going to limit him to like 30 minutes, and he played 33 minutes. So I think we get like mid to high 30s minutes from Dejounte Murray. I think his usage should be through the roof without Derek White, without Keldon Johnson. He's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. I think Dejounte Murray is a guy that has triple-double upside, so I definitely like him at 9,600. I think Jakob Poeltl, I don't know if his role really changes, and I worry about the matchup for him going up against Embiid. Having to guard Embiid, there's a lot of foul trouble risk there. So I don't know if I'm too excited about Poeltl, but I think Dejounte Murray looks really good. I think Lonnie Walker, if he plays, is going to be a really intriguing value option. We know Lonnie Walker, he's kind of been inconsistent this year, but when he does get minutes, he normally can produce at a pretty good rate. He's a guy that can get hot when he's knocking down shots. He can put up good games. Had 31 DK points against the Lakers in 25 minutes. Shot the ball well that game. There's going to be opportunity for Lonnie Walker. There's definitely going to be minutes available for him as well if he's able to play here. And I assume he would move in the starting lineup if he does play. I really don't know what the Spurs starting lineup is going to look like. Obviously, Murray and Poeltl are being there. I think if Lonnie Walker plays, he'll probably start. I think Keita Bates-Diop is probably going to start. And then they might start Trey Jones. They might start Bryn Forbes. We don't really know. Starting lineup's definitely going to be important from San Antonio. But yeah, Lonnie Walker, if he plays, I would have some interest in for value. Keita Bates-Diop, even with all these guys out, he's just not that good of a point-per-minute player. Has really shown, no upside this year. I know he had, some outlier games, 41 DK points against the Lakers. But normally, Keita Bates-Diop's going to play, 30 minutes and probably give you, 20 DraftKings points. At 3,700, he's a viable cheap option, but I do kind of question his upside. And on this slate, there's going to be a lot of cheap value that projects really, really well. So I don't know if Keita Bates-Diop would be, at the top of my list. Trey Jones and Bryn Forbes, I think if one of those guys winds up starting, they could definitely be viable. We've seen Trey Jones start some games this year. I know he started that game against Detroit, played really well. For 3,600, he'd be viable. Same with Bryn Forbes. But again, starting lineup is going to be really important for the Spurs. We don't really know who's going to be available yet for them. We don't know what the starting lineup's going to look like, but I can confirm that, Deontay Murray is going to be a pretty good play today. If Lonnie Walker plays and he's not limited, I think he'll be a pretty good value. And then, depending on who starts, there could be some other value worth considering from San Antonio. But now moving on to the Sixers side, there's not as much to like from the Sixers. They're still missing Tyrese Maxey and Shake Milton, but the price tags have come up enough to where I don't think there's any standout plays from Philly today. Joel Embiid in tournaments, I think, is always viable. On a bigger slate like this, 9 games, I don't know if Embiid's like a priority spend up for me, especially when you have Jokic on this slate. You have Giannis playing without Drew Holiday. You've got some other pay-up options too that you can go to. Like I don't think Embiid's the top of my list, but always in play. He should be pretty low owned today. So I think Embiid as a low-owned tournament option is fine. Court Moss has been benefiting without Maxey and Milton. He's been playing a lot of minutes. He's been starting, but he's 5,100 now. Court Moss has, again, been playing a ton. So at 5,100, I kind of question his upside at this price point. I know he had 51 DK points against Houston, but normally, he's not a guy that's going to give you 50 DK points. Most nights, if he plays high 30s minutes, he probably is going to score like 25, 30 DraftKings points. He's a pretty score-independent player. Usually, if he's not knocking down shots, he's not really going to do much else. The 11 rebounds, 6 assists game against Houston, that was definitely an outlier. Most nights, he's only going to grab a few boards, maybe get a few assists. You're going to need him to get hot from the field, which, given how many minutes he's playing, obviously he's going to have the opportunity to get shots up and to get hot. But I think at this price point, Court Moss is just kind of like a secondary option, not a priority play for me. And there really isn't much I like from Philly today. I think, they're one of the more, I don't want to say healthy teams right now, but they at least have enough available players, and the pricing has adjusted enough to where I don't think there's any standout plays coming from the Sixers today. So moving on to the next game, we can talk about Milwaukee and Brooklyn. So Milwaukee, they're going to be missing a good amount of guys today. Obviously, Brook Lopez is still out. Pat Connaughton, Grayson Allen, Dante DiVincenzo, they're all out as well. And they're also going to be missing George Hill and Drew Holiday. So basically at point guard, they're really, really thin. I don't know who's going to wind up starting at point guard for them. Whether it's like, I guess it would be like Javonte Smart. Hell, I guess they could start Giannis at point guard if they really wanted to. This is going to be kind of a crazy Bucks lineup. We're definitely going to have to pay attention to who Milwaukee winds up starting today. But I think without Drew Holiday, we kind of know who benefits here. It's going to be Giannis and Middleton. These guys should just get heavy, heavy workloads. Giannis did not play last game, but he's probable. He's expected to play today. I like the matchup for him against Brooklyn. I don't know if Brooklyn really has any good enough defenders to slow down Giannis. Giannis is already like one of the most matchup-proof players in the league. Against this Brooklyn team, I think Giannis should be able to feast. He put up 66 DraftKings points in only 30 minutes against them earlier this year. I like Giannis a lot today. I think he's one of the better pay-up options. And without Drew Holiday, I just expect his usage to be even higher, to be his workload to be even heavier. So I definitely like Giannis on both sides. $56 on Yahoo. If you want to play him over there, I think he's a really strong pay-up option on Yahoo as well. Then Chris Middleton, I think, gets more usage here without Drew Holiday. Now, normally when Giannis is in the lineup, I don't have too much interest in Middleton. But obviously, today's a different scenario because we have no Drew Holiday, which just means, more opportunity for guys like Middleton, for guys like Giannis. I expect these to be the two guys really dominating the usage, taking most of the shots. So I think Middleton's a pretty good mid-range option. I think Bobby Portis, maybe he gets a little boost without Drew. He was in massive foul trouble last game. He was a pretty good play last slate with Giannis out, and he just really disappointed, was in a ton of foul trouble. I think with Drew out, Portis is at least viable, but I don't know how much his role really changes. I think the biggest beneficiaries are going to be Giannis and Middleton. Jordan Nwora might start. I could see them starting him. He started last game with Giannis out. Could maybe start today. He played 40 minutes last game. He's been playing a ton of minutes when he's been, in the starting lineup. It seems like whenever guys get ruled out, like Jordan Nwora's a guy that can step in and just play a ton. I think, in this scenario with how many guys are out today for Milwaukee, we can probably expect Nwora to play big minutes, especially if he is starting. I think with Giannis back, I do kind of question the upside for Nwora. I think Nwora really benefits when Giannis is off the floor. Giannis is, such a high usage player that it's really hard for these other guys to put up massive games playing alongside Giannis. But I think at 5K, if we can expect him to play, as many minutes as he has been lately, I think Nwora is still viable. With Giannis back, I don't really have any interest in Boogie. I think his minutes will definitely take a big hit. And then, Javonte Smart, they might start him at point guard. Now, how well can Javonte Smart play alongside Giannis and alongside Middleton? I don't really know. We did see earlier this year when, the entire team was out, they sat Middleton, they sat Drew, they sat Giannis, and Javonte Smart played 44 minutes, and he still only scored 18 DraftKings points. And now he did shoot 2 for 14. He shot the ball terrible, but given that he only put up 18 DK points in 44 minutes earlier this year when everyone was out, I don't know too much about Javonte Smart, but I don't think he's like a great point per minute player. I don't expect him to be that productive playing alongside Giannis or Middleton. So like even if Javonte Smart starts, I wouldn't be too excited about him. I don't think I'd be really excited about anyone else from Milwaukee, any of these other bench guys. I think Giannis, Middleton, Nwora, if he starts, are probably like my 3 favorite plays. And definitely Giannis, he's the priority for me coming from this Milwaukee team. Now moving on to the Brooklyn side. So with Brooklyn today, no Kyrie Irving. It's a home game for Brooklyn, so Kyrie will not be playing. So, we can expect Harden and KD to get back to their normal workloads that they had basically had all season. Their price tags did come down a little bit, I guess, since Kyrie returned. But now that Kyrie's out today, I think, Harden and KD are both a little bit too cheap. I don't know if they're going to be standout plays today just because you do have other good pay-up options like Giannis, like Jokic. But I think Harden and KD are definitely probably a little bit too cheap. I think both these guys should be over 11K whenever Kyrie's out. Whenever Kyrie plays, then yeah, 10-6, 10-3, those are probably appropriate prices for them. But with Kyrie out today, I think Harden and KD are both viable on this slate. Obviously, we expect those two guys to be the two really, dominating the usage and doing everything for this Brooklyn team. So they're both in play for me. The rest of Brooklyn, I'm not too excited about. I do want to mention David Duke. I don't know really what he did last game. Yeah, so he started last game, but he only played 18 minutes. I saw that they started him, but on that slate, I did not have any interest in him. Given that he only played 18 minutes as a starter, I don't think I'd really go to him, even if he starts again. To be honest, from this Brooklyn team, I think it's really just KD, or it's KD and Harden, and that's probably it. And I think KD and Harden would probably be like secondary pay-up options for me. They wouldn't be like my 2 favorites overall. But next game, we'll talk about Utah and Toronto. So this is the big one. Utah, the team that's just really depleted today. Rudy Gobert got put in COVID protocol, so he is going to be out for today. And I think because if you want to travel to Canada, you have to test negative if you want to travel into Canada. So I think Utah's sitting like all their main guys just in case any of these guys wind up testing positive. They don't want them to test positive while they're in Canada, because I think if you test positive for COVID while you're in Canada, you cannot leave. So they're basically just sitting all of their star players or their main guys. Donovan Mitchell out, Rudy Gobert obviously out for COVID protocols, Mike Conley out, Bojan out, and we have no idea who else is playing. Jordan Clarkson, Royce O'Neal, Rudy Gay, and Hassan Whiteside are all questionable. They all played last game except for Whiteside. Whiteside did not play even when Gobert was out, which was really weird. I thought with Whiteside going through shoot-around last game and Gobert getting ruled out that Whiteside would play, but they sat Whiteside last game. We really have no idea who's going to play for Utah today. I think some of these guys are going to have to play, because if they don't, the game might get postponed, because I don't really know how many other active players Utah has. It looks like, just looking at the DraftKings player pool, I don't know if this is even updated, but Eric Pascal's on the roster. Azubuike started at center last game, so he's on the roster. Trent Force is on the roster. I think Jared Butler's on the roster. I think Hughes and Fitz are on the roster. So those are 6 guys right there. If those are the only 6 guys that they have, then some of these questionable guys are going to have to play for Utah today. For now, I'm just going to assume that all these questionable guys play. And if that's the case, then these guys are going to look really, really good today without, basically all the star players. I mean, we should expect monster workloads for Jordan Clarkson, Rudy Gay. Hassan Whiteside should start at center, and he's going to be a great value play. You're going to have to get some exposure to Utah today if all these guys play. I think Clarkson, you can tell obviously by the thumbnail. I mean, he's a great play today. $5,500 on DraftKings. It's just way too cheap with all these guys out. On Yahoo, he's $18. He's going to be a smash play over there as well. I'd expect Clarkson starts at point guard. I'd expect him to play a ton of minutes. Clarkson's a young guy, so he can handle big minutes if he has to play big minutes. And I think if he plays today, they're going to play him a ton. Just because without Conley and without Mitchell, I mean, he's going to be the number 1 on offense. He's going to take a ton of shots. We know Jordan Clarkson is not afraid to shoot the ball. $5,500, free square basically on this slate, in my opinion. I think Clarkson's a great play. Now, Royce O'Neal, he's always been a very low-usage player. He's not a guy that really has massive upside, but I think with all these guys out, Royce O'Neal probably produces at a higher rate than he normally does. He had a really big game last game against Denver without Gobert. Maybe not having Gobert out there is beneficial for Royce O'Neal. So even at 4,100, I think Royce O'Neal's a pretty good value. I think Rudy Gay probably starts, and Rudy Gay's been really good on a point-per-minute basis this year. He got a lot of run last game with Gobert out, played 29 minutes, had 36 DraftKings points. They used him a lot as the backup center. I think with Gobert out, with Whiteside questionable, I mean, Rudy Gay probably plays a lot of minutes. They might play him at center some. At 4K, he's going to be a really good value play today, assuming he's able to play. And again, he's very cheap on Yahoo as well. So if you want to play Rudy Gay over there, only $12. I think he's going to stand out as a great value play. And then Hassan Whiteside, we obviously know that Hassan Whiteside is a really, really good point per minute player. He's a guy that when he gets minutes, like he can just go out there and produce at a really high rate, can put up massive games. I'd assume with Gobert out that Whiteside starts if he's able to play and probably plays like at least high 20s minutes. Like I don't know if Whiteside's a guy that can go out there and play like 38 minutes, but I think 28, 30 is pretty likely. And Whiteside's just such a good point per minute player that, man, 3,500, if you expect him to play 30 minutes, I mean, he's going to project for like 40 DraftKings points. I mean, I don't know how you don't play Whiteside today. If I was playing 100 lineups today and Whiteside's, obviously if Whiteside's playing and he starts, I would probably lock Whiteside in every single lineup. Like he's a free square basically. So 3,500 for Whiteside. Absolutely love him today. It's going to be really hard to ignore him. On Yahoo, really cheap over there, $12. Going to be a great play on Yahoo as well. So these Utah guys are definitely going to have to focus on. There's going to be a lot to like from Utah. Assuming all these questionable guys play, they all stand out as really, really good plays. Some of these other guys, like I think we could definitely consider, like depending on what the starting lineup looks like, Eric Pascal could definitely be viable. Now, he's not been a really good point per minute player this year for Utah, but he really hasn't played much. At 3,500, you would have to think he plays a lot here just with how thin they are. So Eric Pascal is viable. If Whiteside plays, I probably wouldn't be going to Azubuike because at that point, he's probably just going to be like the backup center. I don't know how many minutes he would really play, but I think Trent Forrest is probably going to play a ton. 3,200. Again, he's not been great on a point per minute basis this year, but you don't want to look too much into his stats just because he's probably been playing a lot alongside Mitchell. Whenever he's on the floor, maybe he's playing alongside Mitchell. I'm sure he's gotten plenty of garbage run before, but 3,200 for Trent Forrest. If he plays mid to high 30s minutes here, I mean he's going to project really well at 3,200. They're just so shorthanded. Like these guys are all going to have to play minutes. Starting lineup is going to be really important for Utah. Again, we don't even know yet who's actually going to be available for them. We don't even know yet if this game's even going to play. Like, will this game get postponed? I have no idea. But Utah's going to be a focal point for value today for sure. And really, these questionable guys, Clarkson, Gay, Whiteside, all look great. I think Royce O'Neal's a solid value. And whoever else starts, like Trent Forrest, could definitely be in play. Eric Pascal, if he starts, could be viable. Or if he comes off the bench, I think he'd be a riskier value, but would definitely be viable. So a lot to like from Utah today. They're just missing so many guys. There's so many mispriced players on this team that you're going to really have to be loading up on the Jazz today. On the Toronto side, though, not as much to like on Toronto because they're fully healthy here. Obviously, the matchup against Utah, you would think it's not good, but since Utah's missing like their entire team, you could say this is a pretty good matchup for these Toronto guys. But they're all priced up to a point where I don't think any of them really stand out on this slate. Now, if you're playing 3, 4, 5 Jazz today and you want to run it back with someone on Toronto, I guess you could do that, but I don't see too much that I'm going to be prioritizing from Toronto today. I think all these guys, like the main four, Van Vliet, Siakam, Scotty Barnes, OG, even Gary Trent, like I think those 5 guys are all just kind of low-owned dart throws. None of them stand out as like priority plays at their price points. So next game we'll move on to Washington and Chicago. So Washington, they had been depleted as of late, but they might be getting some guys back today, or they are getting guys back today. Spencer Dinwiddie should be playing today, so that's definitely going to make Bradley Beal, Kyle Kuzma probably out of play for me. I think Beal and Kuzma had just been priced up so much for when Dinwiddie was out that I don't really think they're great plays now with Dinwiddie back. Daniel Gafford, 6,400. If Montrezl Harrell remains out, I think Gafford's a really good play, but Montrezl Harrell, if he winds up returning, would basically take me off of Gafford just because I think Gafford's minutes would take a big hit if Harrell returns. Gafford's been really good, though, on a point-per-minute basis, as of late, as a starter, as a guy that's going to play pretty big minutes if Harrell does remain out. The matchup against the Bulls, I think, is pretty favorable for Gafford. So if Harrell is out, I definitely have interest in Gafford. If Harrell plays, I don't think I like anything from Washington today. I think this is a team we can almost fade because their prices have all gotten up to a point where none of them stand out now that Spencer Dinwiddie is back, and Gafford would not really be a good play either if Harrell is back. So, yeah, not much I like on Washington. And then on the Chicago side, I don't see too much I like on the Bulls either. When they're fully healthy, this is never a team I love to roster just because it's always hard to predict which one of Zach LaVine, DeRozan, Vooch are going to have the big game. One of them's probably going to do well here. One of them could probably put up like 50, 55 DK points, but like good luck predicting which one it's going to be. They're all expensive enough to where I think none of them are standout plays today. The Bulls are another team I think for the most part I'll just kind of be avoiding on the slate. There's so many shorthanded teams. So many teams with a bunch of mispriced players that I don't want to be really loading up on teams that are fully healthy where the pricing is correct, and that's the case with the Bulls today. So we can move on to the next game, talk about Dallas and Houston. So Dallas, another team that's going to be kind of shorthanded. Porzingis is out right now for COVID protocols, and we did get word that Luka is doubtful for this game with an ankle injury. So I'm not expecting Luka to play. Porzingis should be out again. So without Luka, without Porzingis, I mean, we kind of saw earlier this year when those two guys were out. I mean, Jalen Brunson, his workload was just massive. He was playing 38, 40 minutes a night, was putting up massive games every night. The price tag's come down a little bit since Luka has returned. So now that Brunson's only 7K with Luka and Porzingis both out in a great matchup against Houston, I think Brunson's one of the better mid-range options on the slate. I think he stands out as a great play at 7K on DK. I love Brunson today. I think on Yahoo, you can definitely play him over there too. He is way too cheap on Yahoo, only $23. Really, really like Jalen Brunson on both sides. I think Dorian Finney-Smith and Tim Hardaway Jr. are both in play as well. Dorian Finney-Smith, always a guy that I kind of question his ceiling, but he should play a ton of minutes. If this game stays close, the matchup is obviously really good, so I think DFS is in play. I think Tim Hardaway should have to take a ton of shots. Now, he's been really up and down this year, but he's a really good shooter. When he gets hot, he can put up really good games. We saw him go for 52 DK points against Minnesota. I would think he's going to have all the opportunity in the world to just take as many shots as he wants without Luka and without Porzingis. So Tim Hardaway Jr. is definitely in play for me. And then Maxi Kleber with Porzingis still out, I do have interest in. Now, without Luka, does that really benefit Maxi Kleber? I mean, I don't know. Maxi Kleber's not a guy that's really going to create his own shot. He's just going to kind of, take threes. Most of his shot attempts every game are just three-pointers. But, 4K probably plays 30, 35 minutes here against Houston. He's definitely a viable, cheap option you could go to on the slate. And then depending on who else starts for Dallas, I don't know what their starting lineup's going to look like. It's probably going to be Brunson, Tim Hardaway, Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleber, Dwight Powell. So the 5 starters, probably minus Powell. I don't think I'd go to Powell, but those 4 guys that we just talked about, I think are all viable. Don't know if I'd be going to anyone off the bench, though. Maybe Trey Burke is a low-owned dart throw. But that's probably it from Dallas. Now, moving on to the Houston side. So Houston today, Christian Wood, 7,100. We talked about Christian Wood last slate as being too cheap. He was 6,200 last slate, did really well at his price point, had 43 DraftKings points, played 34 minutes. When Christian Wood, when the Rockets can keep games close and Wood's not in foul trouble or anything, he's going to play 33, 34 minutes in close games. Obviously, against this Dallas team that's pretty depleted right now, this should be a game that does stay close. So I think we do get 34 minutes again from Christian Wood. I like the matchup for him, so I think he's definitely too cheap on this slate again, and is a viable center option you can go to. KPJ at 6,300. I don't mind either. I mean, he feels too cheap right now. Him and Christian Wood both saw big discounts off their price points after their really bad games the other day. Now you're getting these guys at just cheap price points. I mean, Kevin Porter Jr. has been 7,800, 8K, almost, as of late, at least the last week or two, and now he's 6,300. He's just mispriced. So I think Kevin Porter Jr. is in play as well. Wood and KPJ are my 2 favorite plays from Houston. Outside of those 2, I don't see too much else I really like here. If you want to throw some darts on Jayshawn Tate or Jalen Green, I don't hate it, but that's probably it from Houston. We can move on to the next game, talk about Minnesota and OKC. So Minnesota, they're pretty much back to full strength. Everyone that was out for COVID protocols is back now. Towns, Edwards, Russell, all these guys are healthy. In a matchup against OKC, I think this is a pretty good spot for Karl-Anthony Towns. We did just see these teams play not too long ago, 2 days ago. Cat in his first game back from protocols, he was not limited at all. He played 37 minutes. He didn't have a great game, only scored 46 DK points, but I think this matchup against OKC does set up pretty well for Towns, just because OKC doesn't really have any good defensive big men. Towns on this slate is probably just more of a tournament dart throw, but should be really low owned. I don't mind Cat in tournaments. And D. Russ, I don't really love at their price points. There's just too many other plays in the mid-range that stand out over those guys. And then Patrick Beverley, Malik Beasley, I'm not going to these guys, now that Russell and Towns are back. So I think it's probably just Towns is a low-owned dart throw, and that's really it from Minnesota. And then on OKC, I don't really like anything on OKC. They're fully healthy today. The only guy they're missing is Isaiah Roby, so they've got all their main guys back. Obviously, SGA can go out there and put up a good game any night. Last game against Minnesota, he really struggled, only had 28 DK points. We know SGA has a big ceiling when OKC can keep games close. When he plays his normal 36, 38 minutes, he can go out there and put up 50 DK points any night. But on this slate, when you have Brunson, who stands out at 7K, you have Middleton, you have some of these other guys that we talked about, I just don't think I can pay almost 9K for SGA. I think he's just another, low-owned tournament dart throw. Not a standout play. Giddey, I don't really like his price point. Lou Dort, I'm not that high on. So OKC, I think for the most part, it's a fade for me. So we can move on to the next game, talk about Sacramento and Denver. So Sacramento, I think there's some guys that are in play here, specifically De'Aaron Fox. I think 7,200 for De'Aaron Fox still is probably a little bit too cheap. He's been good in back-to-back games. It's now been 3 straight games for Fox with at least 41 DK points. He's been playing big minutes too, 35, 33, 38 minutes. Matchup against Denver may not be the best, but I think De'Aaron Fox's 7,200 does still remain too cheap. Like, he should be... He's an 8K player. I don't know why he's priced this low. Obviously, he's been up and down this year. He's been struggling as of late. But the last 3 games, he's been kind of turning things on. He's looked a lot better. I think De'Aaron Fox is my favorite play from the Sacramento team. If you want to go to him in the mid-range, I don't hate it. I think Buddy Hield off the bench is always like a low-on dart throw. He's a very scoring-dependent player, but when Buddy Hield gets hot, you can see him put up good games. 41 DK points against Miami, 42 against the Lakers. Matchup on the road against Denver. Don't know how good of a spot this is for Buddy Hield, but as a tournament dart throw, I don't hate it. And that's probably it from Sacramento. Holmes and Metu are both out right now, so Damian Jones will probably start at center again. But in this matchup against Jokic, I really worry about Damian Jones getting in foul trouble. He was in foul trouble last game against Atlanta. His minutes as of late have started to trend down a little bit. His production's not been great. Again, the matchup against Jokic is not good at all for Damian Jones, so I'll probably just be avoiding the bigs from Sacramento. I think Fox is the best play here. Then Buddy Hield is like a tournament dart throw. I don't hate either. But on the Denver side, Jokic at 12K, right up there with Giannis in terms of like best pay-up options on the slate. I mean, Jokic just been so good this season. He's been unstoppable. This Sacramento team, I don't expect will have any answer for Jokic, whether they put Damian Jones, Tristan Thompson, Alex Len, like whoever guards Jokic, it's going to be a mismatch. Jokic should be able to feast here. With all the value that we have on the slate, it's pretty easy to pay for Jokic and probably fit in another stud. Like, this is definitely shaping up as a stars and scrubs slate. So I really like Jokic today at 12K. I think he's a really strong pay-up option. I think the rest of Denver, not too appealing. Will Barton, Campazzo. Campazzo, now that Monte Morris is back, I don't really have any interest. But Will Barton at 5,800, I don't hate, especially if Aaron Gordon is out. Aaron Gordon's probable. I thought he was questionable, but he's probable. So, yeah, even Barton as like a mid-range option, I guess, is fine. Obviously, good matchup against Sacramento, but really the priority play from Denver today is Jokic. I mean, Jokic is the guy that really stands out here. I think Will Barton, maybe Aaron Gordon are like fine options, but Jokic is the priority from Denver. Next game, though, Atlanta and the Lakers. So looking at Atlanta today, definitely some big news we're going to have to watch with Trae Young, who is questionable. Trae Young was questionable last game and surprisingly did not play. I thought Trae Young would play. I think he did go through shoot-around, but he did not play last game. He's questionable again. I assume Trae will play here. It's a really good spot against the Lakers. Like, the Lakers have been playing really, really fast this year. They're second in the league in pace, and defensively, they've not been a good defensive team either. So I think Trae Young makes a lot of sense in tournaments. He should be really low owned with the Q tag, especially if we don't have news on Trae Young till like after lock. I think Trae Young comes in with really low ownership today. So in tournaments, that's something I have a little bit of interest in. Capella at 8,200. I mean, if the Lakers continue to play small ball, like with LeBron at the 5, which has been working out for them, I think this is a spot where Capella could definitely dominate on the boards. Now, they might start Dwight Howard just to match up with Capella, but I think Capella 8,200 as a tournament option is a fine play too. John Collins, I think, is questionable. He can maybe return or he's actually cleared protocols and he's questionable for conditioning. So, if John Collins returns, that would hurt Capella a little bit, but I still think Capella would be viable. The rest of the Atlanta guys, I think I'd only be considering these guys if Trae is out. So if Trae is out, then we can start to look to DeLon Wright, Kevin Huerter, Cam Reddish, Bogdan. If he returns, he's questionable. Like, then these guys would look appealing if Trae is out. But if Trae plays, I think Trae is the main priority from Atlanta as a tournament play. Capella is viable too. But the rest of these Atlanta guys, I'm not too high on if Trae winds up playing. But now on the Lakers side, talking about the Lakers. So LeBron at 11.6. I mean, right up there with Giannis, right up there with Jokic. I think LeBron's one of the better pay-up options on this slate as well. It's now been back-to-back games with kind of disappointing outings from LeBron. 51 DK points against Minnesota, 47 DK points against Sacramento. I still wouldn't look too much into those games. I mean, we've seen the LeBron at center lineups have been great for him. His fantasy upside, his fantasy value. He's had some massive games as of late. Been really, really consistent outside of his last 2. Been playing monster minutes. I think the matchup against Atlanta is pretty favorable. Like, I don't think Atlanta really has anyone that's going to stop LeBron on the defensive end. LeBron just gets so much usage. His workload is so massive right now without Anthony Davis. So I still think LeBron's a really good pay-up option. Westbrook's just kind of like a triple-double or bust. If Westbrook goes out there and puts up a triple-double, he probably does well at his salary. If he doesn't, he's probably going to disappoint. On this slate, with so many good pay-up options, I don't think I'd be prioritizing Westbrook. I think I'd play Trae Young over him, just at a similar price point. Malik Monk, he's been playing really well as a starter, been scoring a ton as of late, but Now that his price is up to 5,800, like I don't think I have that much interest in Malik Monk anymore at this price point, especially on this slate with so many mispriced players, with so many shorthanded teams. Paying nearly 6K for Malik Monk, I think you're kind of overpaying for him right now, even though he has been playing well as of late. So I'm not too high on Malik Monk, even though he's been playing well, just because of the price tag. And that's probably it from the Lakers. I do want to mention Dwight Howard, just because I think in this matchup against Capella, they might start Dwight Howard here. If Dwight Howard does wind up starting, that would definitely make him a viable, cheap option. Now, we've seen, even in games where Dwight Howard starts, like that doesn't mean he's going to play big minutes. He could still play like 18 minutes, but I think if he does wind up starting for 4,500 as a low-owned dart throw, he'd be playable. But you have to think, like, with Gobert out, if Whiteside plays today, Whiteside's going to be like a great value play at center. And, are you going to play Dwight Howard over Whiteside? I mean, probably not. So maybe on the late slate, you could go to Howard if he starts. That's probably it, though, from the Lakers. So we can move on to the last game of the night, talk about the Cavs and the Blazers. So in Cleveland today, they're getting healthy for the most part. They have Darius Garland back. Still missing like Isaac Okoro, but I think Cedi Osman might play today. I think he's questionable, or he's probable, so he should be back. I don't see too much that really stands out from Cleveland. Darius Garland at 9,300. I think at this point, like his price tag is high enough to where I don't think Garland's like a priority play for me. Same could be said for Jared Allen. Kevin Love, Evan Mobley, I think they're probably priced where they should be. If not, Kevin Love's overpriced right now just for his role off the bench. I really don't like anything from Cleveland. They're kind of one of the more healthy teams on the slate. The pricing is accurate. I think we can talk about Portland. So Portland, definitely a team where I have more interest. So Portland is still shorthanded. No Damian Lillard, no CJ McCollum, which are obviously the two big injuries for Portland right now. I mean, without those two, we have just seen massive workloads for Norman Powell, Yusuf Nurkic, Anthony Simons. Anthony Simons in particular, I like quite a bit. Now, his price has come way up. It's 6,200 now, but man, these last two games without Dame and CJ, 38 minutes and 39 minutes for Anthony Simons, 60 and 45 Draftkings points. Now, he got off to an incredibly bad start. He had I think last game he had 7 fantasy points at halftime, and then he just went nuts in the second half, scored 40 Draftkings points in the second half. Anthony Simons, I mean, he's been great these last two games without Dame and CJ. His role has been great. He's been playing a ton of minutes, taking a ton of shots, getting a ton of points. He's getting assists as well. He's gotten the ball in his hands a lot. His usage is through the roof. I think Anthony Simons, even at 6,200, is still a really good play. I think Norman Powell and Yusuf Nurkic are both pretty solid options as well. Norman Powell should play a ton of minutes, should take plenty of shots. 7,100, probably priced where he should be, but still think Norman Powell's in play. Yusuf Nurkic's minutes have been good as of late. First game back from COVID protocols, played 26 minutes. Last game played 33. In this matchup against a big Cavs team that plays pretty big, usually it's going to have one of Mobley, Love, or Allen on the floor at all times. I think we get pretty big minutes from Yusuf Nurkic today, so it's 7K. Definitely a viable center options you could go to. And that's probably it. I don't think I'd be going to Nasir Little on this slate. There's just too many other values. I don't think I'd go to Robert Covington either. Larry Nance is out, so that does make those two guys look a little bit better. But again, we just have so much good value today that I don't think I'd be playing Little or Covington on this slate specifically. So that's it for Portland, and that's it for this Friday night slate. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. As always, guys, if you enjoyed, please do hit the like button down below. Hit the subscribe button as well if you have not yet. Go check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. Go sign up for PrizePicks. Use code NOAH when you do, and PrizePicks will match your first deposit. They will give you a free bet up to $100 when you do sign up with my code. If you want to take a look at what PrizePicks has to offer, you can make some picks for tonight's NBA games. You can make some picks for other sports as well. You can mix and match sports on PrizePicks. You win up to 10 extra money over there. So check them out. Sign up with code NOAH so you get that deposit bonus. And if you want some of my favorite picks each day on PrizePicks, along with the entries that I am playing myself, I give those out on Patreon. That's linked down below in the description. If you're interested in that, that's available. Check that out. Link down below in the description. But good luck on this Friday night slate, guys. I appreciate you watching the video. I hope you did enjoy, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.